So I'm going to relay a visionary message that came through for this group. So let me do that. Okay, so the message to us visionaries right now, to the present, and who will be watching the recording, the message is to make sure that we create space for healing in our lives is important. And part of that healing is healing the past specifically. So what that means to me is acceptance, I guess, is a big way to heal the past, just accepting that it happened, making peace with it, allowing it to let go. So that's come up as something important. And the next part is giving yourself permission to be where you are now. So I know that with visionaries, there's a lot of, oh, here's like the post of where I want to be and I'm not there yet. And the kind of rushing to it. So healing the past, making peace with it, giving yourself permission to be where you are now. So that really allows you to be more present and enjoy the journey, right? There's no use racing to get somewhere and then you get there and of course there's another marking post, right? So where was the enjoyment of you getting there and actually acknowledging where you are, right? So giving yourself permission to be where you are can also include acknowledgement. And yeah, enjoy the journey. It will run at its own natural pace. That's how it works. When we can accept it, then it's a lot easier. Embrace the learnings that you've already had that you're learning now. And the exploration. I love that word exploration, right? So we're really always in a state of exploration. How can I expand? What's the highest level of expansion for me now? And that always changes because it gets bigger and bigger. Breathe into and observe this moment. So kind of how we started the session, right? Where it's like, all right, I'm here, I'm sitting on my chair, I can feel the breeze, I'm alive, there's nothing I have to do, I can take this moment of peace. So that's important for us to incorporate on a more regular basis, I'd say. So focus on expanding your awareness of everything in you that's coming up to release. Okay, so, they could be uncomfortable things like Aaliyah was mentioning, thoughts and beliefs that no longer serve you, that are uncomfortable. So be more aware of these coming up, which will also allow you to release them rather than getting stuck in them. And expand your awareness of everything that's around you too. So what aren't you noticing that's around you? How can you expand out to a higher state of connection to everything that's around you? Taking a multifaceted approach to life. So, okay, so Laurie's having tech issues. Well, thanks for joining us, Laurie. It was nice to have you here in the beginning. And then there were 4. Okay, awesome. So I know everybody here, so that's awesome. So what I'll do now, before we get to the part, I want to have around 15 to 20 minutes where we can open it up to be interactive. So I want to talk a little bit about the framework and how it came about. And what I will do is I'll put the framework on the screen. So for those that know Jeff, he has a flower that he shares that has an energetic transmission. So it occurred to me that this also has an energetic transmission. So you don't have to read it so much. You can just look at it and receive the energy from it. That's another way to work with the visionary's journey. But I would just talk about how it came about. So I really, besides somebody telling me that I should create the visionary's journey, it really came about out of an observation. When I was working with, over the years of working with visionaries, I started to notice that there was a certain pattern of challenges that they were having. and the challenges were happening. Is that big enough for everyone? Do I need to make it a bit bigger?
Yes.
Is that better?
It was fine.
Okay, all right.
I have a problem anyway, so I'm just gonna peer at it and then I'll see.
Well,
I mean, I was just trying to read the words. I can see it well.
Yeah, maybe you don't have to focus on the words, just the energetic transmission. I know you're already familiar with the model, so just take it, the energy of it. Hi, Stephen. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Kelly. Thank you. Sorry I'm late.
That's okay. We did a meditation before and a message to visionaries, and now we're talking about how the framework came about. And it's just started raining here, so I always take that as a nice cleanse, a cleanse of the energy in the air. So that's happening at the moment too. So I observed that not only were visionaries having similar challenges or kind of going through similar things, it was also developmental. Okay, so it seemed to be that I could note that, all right, well, because you're at this stage, these certain things are happening, whether it's challenges or whether it's successes. So I started to notice that, and I could see the frustration, of these stages of where they were and things that were going on in their business and their own limiting beliefs. And I wanted to say, yeah, well, that's happening because you're at this stage. But it's okay, because when you get to this stage, it's actually, you'll overcome that. So that's all I really wanted to say, or actually note, like kind of track these different stages and challenges and successes. So that's really how it came about. And then when somebody mentions it to me and they said, well, there's the visionaries journey, why don't you create there's the hero's journey, why don't you create the visionaries journey? And they were quite an advanced visionary themselves. It made sense because I already was starting to notice and track developmental stages that were going on. So that's really at the core of why I wanted to bring it about. And the other part is, and this is something that's very important for us to know as visionaries, that I almost feel like we spent a lot of time in the beginning stages, the calling and the commitment. And I know that the people that are live on here now, are definitely beyond those stages. So we have our clarity, but I know that when you're forming that, it's almost like there's this sense of trying to pull or find out really what our vision is. Whereas what I've experienced myself and seen with a lot of people, it's almost like it's predestined, it's given to us. So we don't have to go and find it. I mean, there's the exploration, but we just naturally are receiving the vision and the pathway that we're here to lead. Can anyone else relate to that? You can just put your hand up. So everyone was very specific with what they said in the intros of what their highest passion is. And I feel that that's, basically what's been given to you to bring to the world. So I started to notice that, where sure, my background's marketing, but I started to notice that I was getting downloads, like often when I was exercising, because that's when you're in a state of being present and you're not thinking, or maybe it's just the adrenaline or the serotonin that's naturally going on. But I'd receive downloads of what isn't working in business and leadership and marketing, because that's a space that I was working in. And then I was receiving downloads of a better way. So they'll naturally just coming to me. So it made sense that in this framework, I could include that information as well, because why was I just receiving all these high downloads of a better way, if there wasn't a way for me to deliver them to the world in more of a structure or a system. So that was another part of the visionaries journey, and how it was built into the structure. So I'm going to talk Are there any comments on what I just said? You're welcome to share. No.
I look around me at some of the young folks, and it would be easy to think that they are not on some kind of path, that they're just basically wasting their lives on trivial stuff. But I can see how they're accumulating knowledge, and I can see how 10, 15, 20 years from now, what they're doing right now is going to serve them. It's going to be part of what they draw on. So that's an interesting observation. I do get frustrated sometimes when, when they're serving coffee and laying bricks, and they could be, in my view, they could be doing something far more meaningful even right now, but we don't know how our path will unfold. I guess all of us looking back didn't really know how our path would unfold.
Yeah, exactly. And thanks for sharing that. Because if you look at the bottom of the model, the gift and the burden, I mentioned in the talk last week that when I was doing traditional marketing in, purely profit-driven organizations and feeling disconnected and knowing that I was here to do something more, I can see that was part of the journey, as much as it felt like a burden for me to actually be serving visionaries in the way that I am now. If I didn't have that experience, it wouldn't be as holistic or as grounded, if that makes sense. I wouldn't be able to put together structures like I am now. So it really is part of the journey, and where people are meant to be. And until our vision and purpose becomes more articulated, A, and B, when the world's ready for it. So often, I mean, Aaliyah and I know somebody, and his vision is so big that he even shared that, he could be 200 years early of his time, so there are some visionaries that, have not seen their work come to life because they were meant to plant a seed and someone was meant to build on top of that. And so, yeah, timing is a big part of it as well. So I want to talk now briefly just about the role of the framework and how it can be incorporated into your life. So I feel the biggest thing about having a map, you could call it the pathway, is one of the blessings is that it allows you to refocus your energy and not get too distracted. And when I say distracted, one of the biggest things that happens when you're a visionary is all of your insecurities and limiting beliefs come up in a really big way. I guess that's also the entrepreneurial pathway too, but especially being a visionary. So there's a lot to transform, transcend, and process yourself. So I find by essentially looking at, so we're primarily, I don't want to just box people in and go, all right, you're in stage 4, you're in the commitment, and then that's it. What I found with this model is we're primarily in one stage, okay? And primarily could be 80%, it could be 90%, it could be 60%. So that's what the quiz is about. And also, maybe you've done the quiz and then you work with the journey a bit more and you realize that you are at a different stage too. So there is that chance. So we're primarily in one stage. There's parts of us. So just say that we're in stage 5, the realization. There'll be parts of us that are still in the commitment, maybe 20%, and there might be 5% that's in the calling. There could be 10% that's in the activation. So, and I know Leah and I have spoken about this before, and then at different times of the day, even, or moments, we may be more in other stages. I know when I'm meditating, I can definitely be in, 10, 9, 8 a lot of the time. And then a trigger can happen and it could bring you back down to maybe the burden. So it's moving in in different moments. But if you look at where you primarily are and focus on 1 to 2 stages ahead of you, I feel that it just kind of keeps you on track a bit more. And it also gives you permission to be where you are and not get frustrated or want to throw in the towel. Or so that's how I often work with it. So I just wanted to share that is a way that you can really use it to stay focused. And you know, every model, every stage as well shows the opportunity of how you can transcend that stage. So you're actually given, you know, straight out, all right, well, this is how you can ascend and move on your journey. So it's really spelt out. Another thing about this journey is the reason I put the gift and the burden in there is, and I found myself that when you look at those different parts and you can match what was present for you, it's like it gives yourself permission to have been like that. So for me personally, you know, I was quite the odd one out, and you know, always labeled weird and things like that. So when I look back and I see that that's quite common to be different to everybody else when you're a visionary, it allowed me to heal that more and not think that, oh, there's something wrong with me. So it allows you to make peace with the past of things that may have that you could still be struggling with. So it's quite healing in that way, just by looking back on the journey. So that's another really important way to work with it, to heal the past, see where you are now, see what the opportunities are to grow, and then look at a few stages ahead of where you're at. You can also use it in a weekly, in a meditation. So just looking at the model and getting the transmission of it, looking at later stages and energetically getting the transmission of it. Again, like going 1 or 2 up. And also you can do intention setting at the beginning of the week, where you can look at where you can embody more of the higher qualities in your current stage, like set that intention as well. So that's another way to work with it. Okay, so I'm going to today. So I won't so much focus too much on the different expressions, because a lot of us have already had the chance to look at the gift and the burden, and you know, the exploration stage of the calling and the commitment. You know, what vision am I here to lead? What are my gifts? What does that look like in a product or service, or in my business and my career? How can I use my existing gifts to step more into this vision? So that's really the emerging stage. The emerging overview and expression. And the re-evolving expression, the overview is that we got more clarity on what our vision is. It's already been out there into the world. And now we're just going deeper into it, you know, in our own growth and expansion. And then that automatically evolves our work, right? So whatever offerings you have could have been perfect based on where you are at. And then as you evolve, your work evolves. So that's very important, not to look at models or offerings as finite. I always encourage people to say, is this the highest expression of this model or of this offering right now? You know, how can I best serve in this moment? Is there another course that I should offer, or is there another program or way of serving my audience? So that's why it's called re-evolving, because it's not finite, which is a little bit untraditional in the business world. It's like, okay, let's create the perfect product and service and just keep it running. You know, yeah, sure, there's like a little bit of development, but this is completely different. This is a sense of surrendering what you have and saying, all right, I'm open to letting go of all of the work that's out there and evolving it or bringing out something new. So there's a constant sense of surrender. The remastering is really about your own journey of enlightenment and evolution, and then your work naturally, and that informs your work. So it's almost like the work becomes secondary and it just becomes an extension of your own evolution, if that makes sense. And towards the later stages of remastering, you actually have others around you that will help lead and bring your work out there. So if you look at Alma, you know, the Hugging Saint, and I mean, I often just think of saints or ascended masters and former gurus because they're the best examples. But, you know, it gets to a stage where other people help lead your work and your vision. So what I wanted to do, sorry for all the skipping, but I wanted to focus on stage 6 for 5 minutes, and then we'll go more into the Q&A. So whether you're at stage 6 or not, I encourage you to look at this stage. This is where you can get a lot of energy. I know there's a lot of words there now, so I'm going to encourage you to just look at, we're just going to look at the summary up here in yellow. So I'll read it out. You've stepped more into your superpowers. Your work is a co-creation between you and the divine. You're growing, accelerating, and expressing more of your gifts, plus new ones you've discovered. You're constantly discovering new gifts. There's only one way up from here, and that's advancing your personal evolution and awakening consciousness. So this is, I'll just zoom out now. So this is a really beautiful stage. You can see that if we go to thoughts and feelings, that your invisible gifts are well developed and you're constantly using them. The physical time between your future vision and present day dissolves. So you're really embodying a lot more your vision so people can feel it right now. Yeah, truth and vision are fully embodied in the now. Joy becomes central. That's quite a big one. And there's a lot of awareness of what old energy and thought patterns are ready to be released as well, which means that they're coming up in an amplified way, and you can use tools to actually transmute them. So I personally do portal work. I work with somebody that does EFT. I've also worked with a healer that helps get rid of energy from old patterns and trauma that's stuck in the body. So there's many ways to release it, and it's good to find tools and systems that work for you. If we look at the mindset, at this stage, you really feel tuned in with your purpose, and there's momentum happening with your offerings and vision. There's co-creation. Co-creation, ideas and ways to further deepen your work can be overwhelming if you don't choose which ideas to go ahead with. So, you know, you've got your visions and ways that it can be incorporated into the world. There's a lot of different ideas coming. So discernment is really important. And patience, if that makes sense, right? So it's just knowing, all right, this is what I need to prioritize right now. And let's just make a note of all these other ideas, like an online school or a curriculum, or, you know, the work expanding, and really knowing that, yeah, that's in a year, or let's look at that in 6 months. I also wanted to cover external reality. You act from an empowered state. Your vision's a co-creation between yourself and spirit that manifests in the outside world. So this is a big one. This is you essentially receiving information from the highest source versus operating just from the logic. And that's how you're driving and moving forward and making decisions and business decisions, and also bringing your work out there. And your vision continues to re-evolve and emerge in deeper levels. You live in trust, service, and sovereignty. So sure, there's some conflicts and challenges here because we're in stage 6, and you know, there's always going to be aspects of that. There's less as you go further along. So that's okay. It's nothing to retract on when you read them. It's just that acceptance that that's part of the journey. So I really like to look at this stage when I'm feeling conflicts of earlier stages that may be appearing at different times. and it can keep you on track. And if you feel that you're at stage 6 already, then have a look at stage 7 instead. If you feel that you're at 7, then look at 8. But this is just a good one to go to, even if you're at stage 3, 4, or 5, to really look at 6, because there's a lot of power in this one that is easy to receive and comprehend, if that makes sense. And if we look at the spiritual beliefs, I have a direct communication channel with Source. I'm in regular communication with higher divine forces. I trust my judgment and take aligned steps immediately. Immediately being the main word I've learned from experience. I feel a greater sense of trust and surrender to the flow of life. I have a sense of deep peace and inner knowing. So really tuning into that consistently, if you're at earlier stages, really helps. So I just wanted to share all of that with you. So thank you so much for listening to that overview.